I just wanted to talk about this idea of mental illness being an invisible illness. And I mean, I really fail to understand what is invisible about mental illness. Granted, I accept that our thoughts can be invisible, that our thoughts are inside our heads, so it is pretty hard for them to see. But if you're under the naive view that mental illness is just about your thoughts, then that's really stupid, and we should stop thinking that. Like, mental illness is not just a thought process. Mental illness is more about the physical side effects, the symptoms, and actions, like, more than anything. Like, the only time people accept mental illness in its physical form is through suicide, which is sort of, it's like if you die of cancer, like if you die of mental illness, it's like a suicide. Like, that's how it kills you. And it's not just the thoughts that it puts into your head. It's what it makes so difficult about life. I mean, I just carved trust no one into my arm. Like, what the fuck is invisible about that? There's nothing invisible about it. And like, I was at my mom's house today and she said to me, like, why are you drinking so much coffee? You've had like 3 cups of coffee already. And I'm like, because it's the only way I get through the day. She's like, what do you mean? I was like, otherwise I would stay in bed if I don't have coffee to like prop me up. Like, thank God coffee is enough right now, because when it's not, then I do other really stupid things to get me going. And it's like, I don't think anyone actually understands how physical mental illness is. Because I mean, I can see mental illness. Like, I see mental illness wherever I am. I see it in so many people. And I really don't understand how others really fail to see that in us too. And I think it's honestly just because of a lack of awareness. I think that's why mental health awareness is so important, because people don't know what to look for. That's why they think mental illness is invisible, but it's really not invisible. Mental illness is real, it's physical, it's actually quite visible in society when you see it. But I mean, people only assume, I guess, the really drastic versions of the physical symptoms are mental illness. There's really subtle symptoms of mental illness that we should really look out for. I mean, when people say to me, stop slouching. Okay, I only slouch when I'm depressed. What do you think makes someone who normally doesn't slouch start slouching? Like, depression. I'm so self-conscious and lethargic. It's like my whole body hunches over. When I'm manic, which is what people often think is the normal me, because I'm happy and I'm smiling and I'm bouncing around, that has its own set of side effects. I mean, if someone's not sleeping or hardly sleeping and not eating or hardly eating, they're very visible side effects of being manic. I'm speaking faster. I talk fast normally anyway, but, I speak faster. I start talking over people. I have these, like, crazy ideas. I can't sit still. Like, how is that invisible? That is not invisible. And I really think, like, depression is really easy to see in people. People will say, oh my God, we're sick of seeing you not smiling. Okay, an inability to smile is a pretty obvious sign of depression or something that's wrong in someone's life. So if they're not smiling every day and they seem to be quite unhappy, I mean, like, if I haven't hung out with you in weeks or maybe even months, maybe something's wrong. Or, like, at least something's wrong with me or inside my head, so I'm avoiding social situations. Like, if I haven't returned your call or your text messages, I don't know, what do people just assume? That, I don't want to talk to them? Which, hey, there's a couple of reasons I might want to talk to you. One might be that I'm too depressed, so I don't want to talk to anybody. The other one might be I don't like you. So I think people kind of assume the second most of the time. But it's like, if I normally like hanging around you, then there's probably something wrong. So maybe you should do something about it. Maybe you should find another way to contact me. Maybe I need help. And I think people see it, but people make the wrong assumptions. So people can see that you're struggling, but they don't assume, like, mental illness is the reason for your struggle. And I really think it should be. I really think it's important to, like, raise awareness of that. I don't think it's insensitive to say to someone, hey, I've, like, noticed your behavior. It's kind of strange at the moment. Like, what's going on? Or, like, do you think you could maybe be, like, depressed? I mean, I would pose that question to someone that I care about. I would have that discussion with them and talk to them, and I would at least investigate a little bit further if I think someone's being a little bit strange. I mean, I know it's really hard because it's, there's no symptoms of mental illness. There is symptoms of specific mental illnesses. And I think that's why I don't talk about the stigma in what I do, because I don't want to bring awareness to the stigma. Like, I want to bring awareness to mental illness and what mental illness is, because I think that is the way to eliminate the stigma, if people actually understand it and know a bit more about it. So I try and be really specific, like when I'm talking about bipolar symptoms, when I'm talking about borderline symptoms, I know enough about it and I've analyzed myself quite a bit. I can distinguish which illness is causing me grief. Not all the time, but most of the time. So I try and be specific about that, because you can't say symptoms of cancer as a whole. No, you would say these are the symptoms of bowel cancer, these are the symptoms of lung cancer, these are the symptoms of, whatever other liver cancer, It's the same. I say these are the symptoms of bipolar, these are the symptoms of borderline personality disorder, and I think that's what people really need to understand. I think we need to be talking about the specific illnesses and really specifics of them, of how we're feeling, of what it's like to live with each individual one, so that people have a greater understanding of not just mental health and mental illnesses, but the individual ones, because they're all treated differently. Some of them are treated with just therapy, others are treated with medication and, a range of other treatments. And I don't know. Honestly, I just fail to see what is invisible about this, invisible illness that everybody just, keeps talking about. And then I'm sick of people falling behind this fucking stupid excuse. I swear to God, if I hear it one more time, oh, how did you expect us to know that you were struggling, you're dealing with an invisible illness. No, I'm not dealing with an invisible illness. Pay attention to my lack of energy. Pay attention to my increases of energy. I don't know, pay attention to my diet. Am I eating? Have I eaten? Am I sleeping, Pay attention to my mood. Even pay attention to the things that I say, because when I am depressed, everything has a negative filter on it. So if everything that I say is negative and you find yourself getting into arguments with me because I'm being increasingly more negative about things, and you're trying to say, oh, this is the bright side, and if I can't see that bright side, maybe I'm depressed. Maybe something is going on with me. And, I see it, and I'm sure all of you guys see it in other people as well, but I just think, I just think people can't understand the significance of it until they've kind of experienced it. And, there is I don't know, I really just fail to see how it's an invisible illness. I wish people kind of knew what to look for. And I'm quite verbal about what people should look for. That's why I talk about mental health. That's why I tell people what the symptoms are. So that if they see me doing some of those things, if people see me when I'm manic and I'm at a party and I'm getting kind of excited, I have good friends that go, hey, do you want to go for a walk for a minute? Do you want to go have a cigarette or a quiet chat for a minute? Because they know that I'm getting too energized and I need to calm down a little bit. That would be the responsible thing to do with a manic friend, get them out of a party situation when they're not handling it or they're enjoying it too much. I think if people noticed or people spoke up about the actual symptoms of mental illness, okay, a girl who normally doesn't do drugs or alcohol and I'm doing drugs or alcohol every day, don't just criticize me for doing drugs and alcohol. Think about maybe why I'm doing them. Ask me that question. Why are you getting high every day? I don't know, because I want to kill myself every day. Okay, now there is a problem that we might be able to fix. Maybe we can get you some medication. Have you gone to your doctors? If not, okay, why not? Okay, you can't make an appointment? All right, let me make an appointment for you and let me take you there and we can go together. That sort of problem solving can happen when people start to acknowledge what it's, the symptoms. There's so many symptoms. It's yeah, and it's not that hard. Google it. If you didn't know, if I said I had bipolar, why don't you type in bipolar into Google and it will come up straight away. The symptoms of being manic, the symptoms of depression, type in anxiety. I mean, people have a higher heart rate. I mean, if you see people, my dad all the time, whenever he's talking to me, he's like, he does these like long, weird breaths. And it's like, I know people that do that as well. My boss does it at work. And it's because they're stressed out of their mind and their heart's beating so fast, they can't breathe. They're always feeling short of breath. I see that. I see that that's probably a symptom of severe anxiety. Like, someone who's drinking like 20 cups of coffee a day, maybe they're depressed. Like, maybe they actually need that much of a pick-me-up to get out of bed just to function. And I don't know, maybe that's why people can't see it, because we've just become so good at hiding it that people don't actually understand the underlying issue. Like, yeah, I mean, there's heaps of physical symptoms. Eating is a huge one. Self-harm is like another big one, but like they're kind of like worst case scenario types of symptoms. I mean, I really struggle to see in close friends and family. It really pisses me off, because it's like, I know it's there, and I actually sometimes make an effort for it to be really prevalent with people when I have a conversation with them. But I think it's really frustrating, and it's really hurtful when your boyfriend or your family or your really close friends refuse to see it. You know, people say to me, I never knew that you self-harmed. And it's like, have you even looked at me? Like, if you eat, the scars are right there and they're kind of in your face. It's like, have you actually not paid that much attention to me? Or it's like, oh, I never knew that you were suffering like depression. It's like, okay, well, when I was sitting at the table and I was telling you about how I just really don't want to live anymore and I don't really see any point to living, how did you not get depression out of that? Like, I thought it was pretty obvious. Food for thought.